Hey everybody, last week I took you on a little astrophotography trip. I went out camping and shared with you the whole experience of capturing these beautiful images that you're seeing right now. Well, it's time for me to show you how to develop one of those images. We're going to develop the very long star streaking image, and we're going to be using Lightroom and Photoshop to do this. Now you might be thinking, well, geez, Jay, that's easy. You just put the camera on a tripod, set everything to manual, hit the exposure, let it run for an hour. Okay, that could happen, but let me show you what it might end up looking like. Bam! Because you're leaving the shutter open for so long, everything's going to get exposed. We can't do that. So, what you're looking at right now, which will be our final product, is over 350 images. I'm not kidding, over 350 images. Now I set the manual exposures to 6-second exposures, f3.5, ISO 6400 and 18 millimeters on the focal length. So we got a lot of photos here. As a matter of fact, guys, I used an intervalometer on my phone. Essentially what that does is it tells the phone, or tells your camera, to continuously click and take image after image. I actually went in the Jeep and took a nap for an hour while I was capturing these photos. Alright, so I've got a very long shot going right now outside. So with all these images captured now, we need to do some development work. Now the settings I'm going to use here are just some really general settings. They're not going to be anything that I'm going to say works for everything. You've got to play around with yourself. I'm just going to do a few just to show you the process. So zooming in here, we see some noise because of the high ISO, but because I only had 6-second exposures, the stars are points of light and not streaks. That's important. Yes, I know we're doing a star streaking image, but trust me on this one. Well, I like my image here. I want to be more of a bluer tone, so I'm going to cool down those colors in the sky just a little bit. Let's zoom in here. And let's see, I'm going to increase the contrast just a tad. Here we'll go down here. You can do some curves if you like. That's going to take a little bit, make the background a little darker as well if you do that. And then I'm going to address the noise issues. So I'm going to go down here to the noise reduction, and let's see if I can get rid of some of that noise. Looks good, but I want to make it a little bit brighter. So I'm going to increase my exposure slightly. There we go. A little bit brighter sky now, a little bit more of that blue showing through. Let me just check. I can see I've got some noise I need to deal with. So let's increase our smoothing out of the image. And there we go. So just remember, I'm just kind of doing some random edits here in Lightroom. What you choose to do is going to be individual to each series of images. The important thing is we only do it to one, because now what we're going to do is we're going to take those settings and replicate those settings across all 300 plus images that we have in Lightroom. Let's take a look at how we do that. So for that one image we did our work on, I'm going to right mouse click it, and I'm going to go to develop settings, and I'm going to copy the settings. And I tell which settings I'm interested in copying. Well, I didn't do any cropping or masking, so I don't need to select those. We're going to keep the rest. We're going to say copy. And now we're going to copy that to the remaining images. So I'm going to click on the second image. I'm going to scroll on over here to the end of the series. Holding down my shift key, I hit my left mouse button, selects them all. Right click, develop settings, and then paste settings. We're going to be using a combination of Lightroom and Photoshop moving forward. You see, I can't load all these images into Photoshop. I just don't have enough memory. I have a 16 gigabyte machine, 16 gigabytes of RAM on this machine, solid state drives. So going through this process, I started with just 20 images at a time, but eventually I was able to get up to 50 images. How many images you can select in each one of these different sets we're about to do is up to your machine. So I would start small, like 20 images, and work my way up from there. So let's go ahead and send the first group of photos over to Photoshop. We're going to start off with the first 20 images, and we're going to send those over to Photoshop. So I'm going to just hold down my shift key. I've got the first image selected, and you'll see each one has numbers on them. And I'm going to select all the way out to number 20. I'm then going to right mouse click, go to Edit In, and then Open as Layers in Photoshop. This process is going to take a couple of minutes for all 20 of the images to pop up. The flashing that you see is perfectly normal. If you look on the far right hand column, you're going to see each one of those images are being opened up as an additional layer in Photoshop. So just let it go until they're all loaded. All right, it's time for the magic. And this is actually crazy easy to do this part. We're going to blend them together. If we click through these different layers, you're going to see the stars slightly move. Each one of these has a little bit of a different perspective on the stars. So to blend them together, we're going to select. So hold down Shift key and just select all of those layers. Up here where you see normal, this is our blend mode. We're going to change this to lighten. What lighten does is it takes a look at each image, each layer, and where the pixels, the RGB values are brightest, it takes those pixels and keeps them, giving us the perspective of these stars that are streaked together. Now, we're going to have to address things like the airplanes in the sky. But first of all, let's combine all these together. So with all the layers still selected, I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to do a merge layers. Now we're down to just this one layer. The next thing we're going to do here is we are going to address these aircraft. We need to get these streaks out of the way. So let's go ahead and go to our zoom tool. I'm going to zoom in right up here onto this aircraft. So with us zoomed in right now, we need to select, using our lasso tool, some of this aircraft. Now if you have a really bright star crossing that trail, you might want to break this up a little bit. Some of these you can do all at once, but this one I'm just going to kind of cut it right there before it hits the star. And then I'm going to cut it right in there before I hit that star. Okay, Shift F5. Shift F5 brings up our healing tool. You want to make sure that you switch to content aware and then click OK. Bam, right there, it's gone. Okay, let's go ahead and grab a little bit more of that streak. I'm going to do a Shift F5 and now all I have to do is click OK. And you can see it applies that content aware healing tool. Or fill, excuse me, the content aware fill. So I'm going to be doing this for each one of these parts of the aircraft. So Shift F5, press enter, and bam, it mysteriously disappears. Now you might be able to cut across larger swaths here. I'm just going to do this entire remaining part. Even though it does cross some bright stars, Shift F5, press enter, and it did a reasonably good job at maintaining those star streaks. So we want to do this for each aircraft that is currently an image. This one we could probably do all at once. I'm just going to go ahead and circle around these. Shift F5, press enter, and bam, there we go. And I believe, yep, there's one more over here, and we probably can do this one all together. Oops, went a little crazy there. Let me try that again. All right, Shift F5, let it do its thing, and I can see, just notice we've got another one right back here. Let's go ahead and get rid of that UFO. All right. Let's zoom on out, and there we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tell it to deselect everything. Control D will do that. All right, this is going to be our base image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Lightroom and grab the next group of photos and move those into Lightroom as layers as well. So I have the first 20 right here. So I have number 21 selected. I am going to hold down my Shift key, click on number 40. Right mouse click that group and tell it that I want to edit in and then open as layers in Photoshop. So we're back here at the screen we had before, but take a look at the upper left hand corner. We have one tab that has our previous image, and then we have this new one with all of our current layers. So what you want to do, just like before, select all the layers and change the blend mode to lighten. Right click those layers and merge them together. And now select your lasso and let's go ahead and address some of these UFOs we got going in the sky. So again, Shift F5, and we're going to do a context aware blending on all of them. And just to kind of speed this up, guys, I'm just going to go ahead and select these larger areas. Now, if I was doing this for actual production, I would be a little bit more careful here in my selection. But let's just go ahead and grab all of these. And you're going to see we're going to lose some star streaks in there. That's why it's really important that you do take your time when you're doing this for real. All right, now, here is the magic. Since we only have one layer here, what you're going to do is you're going to select all, or Control A, and then you're going to copy this. Control C to copy, Control Charlie, switch to the other image, and Control V as in Victor to paste. We just pasted a new layer up here. Now we can go back to this last one we just finished working with, and we can get rid of it. Yes, we do not want to save it. Going back over here, we now have two layers. All you have to do is tell this layer to lighten, and it's combined into the layer behind it. Now, if you're concerned you might close the wrong layer, what you could do is just simply change these to another color. So when you see those red, that means, hey, don't delete out this particular tab, keep it. But you keep going through this process to stack all of these images together. So I've loaded up now the actual file that I used to create that image. You can see this is before I did my star streaks. What I had to do before I combined these, if I didn't do my star streak, my airplane streaks, I actually had to hide each layer. Then I would go through and make my edit, select out my airplane streaks, and then I go through my context-aware healing tool and fix the image that way. Then, once I had them all done, I did one layer at a time, adding in the star streaks and the airplane images until I had this. And then I can select the entire thing and tell it to merge those layers together. And then there it is. That's the final image. And I simply exported this out as a JPEG. And that's it. Probably the most difficult part of this entire process is waiting for those images to load in the layers, especially when I was doing 50 at a time. So what I did is once I started loading them, I just walked away, did something else, 5 minutes later came back, and then continuing the editing process. Be patient with it. If you start getting a little anxious when you're trying to eliminate those aircraft in the sky, walk away for a few minutes, get your patience back, come back, work on it some more. Trust me, it's going to produce a much, much better final image. Now, I've got a surprise for y'all. I'm going to have another episode this week on Wednesday. I'm not going to wait another week. We're going to be developing this. This is what I'm calling the Dreamy Blue Star Cloud. I'm going to take you through the entire development process on this particular image, which is going to include image stacking. And I'm going to show you a free utility that you can use to help you develop images like this. Now, another thing, if you really like astrophotography, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I have a reservation at a permit-only location in the Grand Canyon under the darkest skies in Arizona. And I'll also be photographing the galaxy standing on a cliff 3,000 feet above the Colorado River. So it should be some pretty epic photography. But anyhow, what I'm hoping to do is to get a true color panorama of the entire galactic cloud that night. We'll see. It's during monsoon season, so we'll see what kind of excitement and mud we have on this particular trip. So, again, hit that subscribe button and join me on the adventure. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you all on Wednesday.